The winter campaign. He looks off camera. Week 6. Somebody asked me the other day if we actually do have a script. We do. It's just there.
It is. I can see it.
You can see it from where you are. Welcome, Will.
Thank you, Jack. Just checking I'm wearing something different again this week.
Your layers.
No, I've got several of these shirts. They're just all the same.
Like Mark Zuckerberg or Luther.
He just wears the same thing.
Same clothes. Yeah,
Great idea. I like that
is.
idea. Yeah, I'll make a note of that.
Psychopathy. We are going to talk this week about, it's not really a touchy subject, but people's enthusiasm during the winter period.
Yes.
That's something we come across a lot as people who help in the charity sector. So, Will, we're going to be talking about this week. We get a lot of people saying, I've collected a lot of hats and scarves, or I'm making a lot of food, or I've collected sleeping bags and warm stuff, and I'm going to go on the streets and I'm going to hand it out to the homeless. Now, this raises many questions for us. We're always glad that people let us know, because that's the first part of it. So what other things, when that happens, what do we think? What are the challenges that they might face first?
Okay, in a lot of cases...
Bar the fact that they're thinking about other people, so it's a great start.
Yeah, so the first thing is we say that's fantastic, and that's a great...
Thank you for thinking.
Thank you for thinking about it. The second thing, and it's probably because we're used to this sort of environment, is the question of managing risk. Because
what do you mean by managing risk?
Okay, so if I was to go out on the street with, as often people do, hats and scarves and sandwiches on my own, or with small people, as has been suggested, I'm putting myself at risk, and I'm also putting the person who's going to engage with me at risk. And so what we're trying to do is protect and safeguard for both parties. We absolutely get that people want to engage, and I think what struck me as really interesting is that when we've spoken to individuals, they've taken on board our advice. They recognise that we do this work, and we do have some sense of what we're talking about, but also I think they've realised that actually giving something in isolation without a more holistic approach actually is not as helpful as it could be, as it first may have felt. And I'll give you a good example. I had a lovely conversation with Michelle, if you're watching, Michelle, from the Nationwide Building Society, and she does have
at the bottom of town. Yeah,
at the bottom of town, and she has a number of our friends who cohabit their doorway.
Yes, it's a nice little
and what Michelle does is she phones me and asks for advice, and very often I can give her the advice in terms of where we are with working with that person, if it's relevant.
She'll have got the person's name.
Yeah, she'll have got the person's name. She will take them a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, ask them first whether they like sugar or not, and it means that we're working as a team, and it also means that she's not putting herself at personal risk. So I think what we're saying is absolutely, if you're somebody who feels strongly about making a positive action plan to address this, particularly if you are trying to encourage your children to think, and this is coming across a lot, where you're trying to engage your children who are, let's face it, probably about the commercialist end of the year you could get, and I think parents worry that their children will lose sight of what disadvantage there is.
We're not saying for one moment that anybody homeless is categorically a horrible person. We are not. But homeless people are human beings like the rest of us, and some people have to put themselves through awful ordeals just to survive on the street. So if you're sleeping outside in the cold, and we've spoken about it on the winter campaign before, and we'll speak about it again, if you're freezing cold, you're going to want to make yourself forget the rest of the night. So some people may take drugs, some people might drink a lot of alcohol, and that brings in an element of unpredictability, and no matter what your generous intentions are, it might not be seen that way. And remember, you are as much of a stranger as the other person, and being homeless, strangers can be the most dangerous people. We get a lot of people urinated on, we get a lot of people attacked, we get a lot of people vomited on, we get a lot of people verbally assaulted. So just because you are with your good intentions doesn't mean that other person isn't already afraid of you just because you're a stranger. But saying that, if you feel compelled, there are many ways you can make yourself feel safe.
I've often said about this is about being informed. Find out about StreetLink, because they are the first line of contact. The advice would be to anybody that you find homeless who's saying that is contact the local authority. If you're concerned or worried, and it's not life and death, it's 101. If it is a severe situation, then 999. So I think one of the things that you can do is be informed. Be aware also that you're talking about somebody who maybe not being honest with you, and that's a difficult thing to say, but it's a fact. So the chances are they are engaging with us, the chances are they are working with the authorities, and we work with the authorities very closely. I think what we're saying is keep yourself safe.
And it's
priority
a lot of the
number
time
one.
the people you're meeting are in survival mode. We have the privilege of meeting people at House of Bread who come to us, and other people say they're horrible, they're abusive, and they might be abusive to us at first, and we can slowly break down those barriers which have been put up for the reasons I've said. Being homeless is a very, very difficult, challenging life. So we're not saying don't go and help people. We're saying if you genuinely feel compelled, there is a risk involved, please keep yourself safe.
The other thing is, if you tour around Stafford and you don't see anybody, that's because they're probably away hidden. Somebody commented on Facebook the other day, I don't see any homeless people. Trust me, they're there. But
like we said, the public are extreme risk to the homeless, because the homeless people we've spoken to, they say they can't sleep at night, they have to sleep with one eye open. If you're thinking about introducing your children to that world, I've had a few messages like that over the weeks, feel free to come down to House of Bread. Most of the people will come down to House of Bread, and that's a safe environment for people to not observe and not like peer in through the looking glass, but to experience what people's lives might be like in a safe environment.
We're working a lot with young guys and girls who do their Duke of Edinburgh Award, and we've worked with the Prince's Trust. So if you want to get some advice, or you want to get in engagement and understanding, then make contact with us. We can facilitate that for you.
It's not that we have the monopoly on the right way of doing it, but we can inform
There are more
you.
considerations than perhaps would first appear. No, good advice.
Right, that's probably a long one this week. Sorry, we're very passionate about that one. Thank you, Will.
No, thank you, Jack. It's good.
Yeah,
good.
wonderful. Oh, he's tapping his knee. That means he's happy with what he said. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to check out Hob News over on YouTube, or back here on Sundays at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. We'll also have our special for the 10,000 challenge coming up, so look out for that, because we have reached that number. Keep sharing this, keep letting everybody know what we're doing. It's great. Thank you so much. We shall see you next time. Goodbye.